everyone, it's Jason. Welcome back to Nova Aetas Renaissance. This is a video part 5. We're lots of content in here. So, this video we are going to go over all of the standard equipment card for the core box and the stretch goal stuff, as well as look at some of the other little miniature cards, the injuries, the reagents, and then we're also going to look at the scenic environment and the tiles. We kind of briefly looked at them during the first video, during the components, but we're going to take a little bit better look at them. We are not going to look over the equipment that is found in the missions as rewards, because we'll look at them when we look at the boss stuff, because they tie directly into each boss thing. So we'll kind of look at those at that point. Because like some of the theming times into whoever boss you're fighting and stuff like that. The hunts, as they call them. And always just a quick reminder, in case you haven't for some reason watched the first 4. The first video we went over all of the just general overview of the components. In video 2 we went over the rules and briefly looked at the tutorial. And we'll kind of hit more rules as we go through some of the other components. So if something was missed in there, we'll pick it up in one of these. Video 3, we went through the core box heroes, the 4 main characters of the story. And then video 4, we went through the 4 stretch goal heroes as well, as well as familiars and the companions. So if you missed out on any of them, you might want to go back and check out. So one thing that kind of got lost, in between doing the heroes separate from the equipment, was a couple of the heroes had spells. Rebecca had her Omnia, her Necromancy, and her Chronology. Phantasma had her Bardic spells, and Aerogax had Animalism, Druid, and did he have a third one? Maybe he just had the 2 of them. So yeah, we missed some other spell. We didn't have their spell. We saw their standard equipment. We didn't see how their spells work. So it'll be fun to kind of go back and look at them. If I need to pop out their player cards, so when we're looking at some of them spells when we get to them, so you can kind of see how they work. All the rest of the characters, there's going to be some equipment that is definitely going to work better for them than they will for other ones. Some might just be general upgrades. But because they kind of all get randomly shuffled, and you can kind of only get certain things at certain times, it's not necessarily want to be like, oh, this is that guy's perfect equipment, because you might never draw it. But we're going to start with some of the basic stuff, then we'll hop into the equipment. So, first thing we want to look at are our reagents. So there are 3 different types. There's Elementium, which are kind of like hard materials, like ores and stuff like that. We have Alchemia, which are like chemically type stuff. And then we have Petunia, which are like diamonds and things. So these are what you get from defeating various enemies. On the bottom of their cards, they will show what's one of these 3 symbols. Other cards, such as Gregory's alchemy abilities, will show you can use these to spend them. And then on the back of any of your item cards, it's going to tell you for this, you are going to specifically need 1 belladonna, 1 leather, 1 wood, and 1 metal. So you have to figure out which one of each ones are. So if you want to craft an item, you're going to need to pick up your reagents. And each one's going to have various different stuff. So like this one here is going to be toss a coin. You need a leather, a phosphorus stone, and sulfur. Some of the items might possibly be locked into missions and things like that as well. I don't know if they are. Again, I do these unboxings with everyone else. So we're gonna go ahead and look at the Petunia. How about kind of looks like a little spell book, just kind of a neat little idea. So we got a gold, we got 2 silver, we got 3 metals, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 florins. So some extra coins you can pick up from these. And you might think, well, there's not a ton. Well, the idea isn't supposed to be that you're going to save a bunch. You're going to defeat an enemy, and on the bottom of their card, it's going to just show you're getting like 1 or 2 things generally, and then you're probably going to spend them when you go back to counting between missions. So just as an example here. So if we defeat this Papal Guard, we are going to get 1 of each of those. So yeah, you're not going to be getting a ton. I don't think most missions, you're not fighting hordes and hordes of enemies. This isn't a dungeon crawler. This is a campaign type game. So you'll be fighting. So you might get, you could get 6 or 7 different things throughout the campaign, but you're not going to draw every single one of these in between, and then they expect you to spend them. And the money can get spent on other things as well. The florins, use them to upgrade to buy companions. You can use them in various other shops to upgrade your abilities or to pay for different services as well. So like the money part's gonna probably go back in there very quick. It's the other agents that might stick around a little bit more. Then we have Alchemia. So we drop these down. So there's our Philosopher's Stone. We have 1 of those. So again, to make that, if you only have 1, you have to spend it and they'll eventually get shuffled back in. But you're not going to be able to make, if you have, so you're looking at all the items you want to buy. If 3 things you need the Philosopher's Stone, you're not going to probably be able to make them all very quickly. We have 2 copies of Realgar. We have 4 copies of Sulfur. And then we have 5 copies of Mercury. And our last one is Elementium. This will get us some standard stuff. So we have 3 copies of wood. We'll collect some wood along the way to make stuff. We have 3 copies of leather. We have 3 belladonna. And we have 3 mandrake. Now, I am not sure why 2 of these mandrake have a thing on this side and 1 has one on that side. Are they all like that? Some of them are. Interesting. I didn't notice that until right now. It's kind of neat. Obviously, the backs don't look any different, but, odd that they did that, but, doesn't matter. Shouldn't affect anything. So those are different various ingredients. We'll just collect them, and then as you get your different stuff, you will use them up during the shop. I'm trying to think what the name of the shop was off the top of my head, but I can't think of it. While you're looking at this, start of the mission must be divided into 3 separate decks, 1 of each time. During the mission, when an enemy is defeated or a mission indicates that they're drawing added to the loot unrevealed. Once the mission is over, reagent cards still in the loot are revealed and their contents must be marked as a reagent section on the campaign sheet. So this is why you can collect a bunch, because you'll mark them down and then you might be like, okay, I got another one here, another one here. So when a reagent used to craft equipment by artisans, they must be erased from the campaign sheet. On the campaign sheet next to the reagent's name, you will find and buy sell prices to be used when visiting the market during the rest phase. So yeah, so you're gonna collect them, and at the end of the mission, you're gonna shuffle them all back in there. So if we look at our thing here, we have our sheet. I was trying to see where it had. Oh, there we are. So here is our treasury for our map. So our reagents is going to say how many you own. So if I ended up, so you could end up making 3. You could collect the Philosopher's Stone. You don't need it right now. You could sell it for 9, or you could buy 1 for 9. Sorry, you could sell 1 for 5, or you could just, if you're at the shop or whatever, you could just go ahead and hang on to it and be like, hey, I might want this for something later. But you might be like, oh, I don't think I'm going to need any of that. I'm not that, like, Philosopher's Stones are used to make stuff for this type of class stuff, or I don't need that. Or the same idea is you could kind of be like, metal is used for metal armor. Well, we're all playing characters that aren't going to really benefit from having metal armor. So, because we have other armor that we have, or what we have is better at the time. So you might just choose to sell your metal. Yeah, it's very cool that we can do that. I like the fact you can sell them as well. That's always a neat idea. So before we actually jump into the equipment, I want to look at the injury cards. Just as another type of card we have. So these cards represent serious injuries and are impossible to treat during the course of a mission. Injury card follows a hero. When a KO hero would activate the instead drawn injury card, placing next to the hero sheet and mark it in a corresponding spot in the campaign card. If the effect of an injury applies immediately, when it's drawn, it affects the hero until they erase it from the campaign sheet. If a hero draws an injury they already have, they discard it and draw a new one until they draw an injury they do not have. The effects of several different injuries are cumulative. You can remove an injury during the rest phase by visiting the trading and paying their indicated amount on the flooring. So that link back tells you how to heal them. And then on the campaign sheet, again, we'll have a list where you can have up to 3 different injuries. And you can say how much you have to pay for it, so that way you can shuffle that back in. That's, again, a neat mechanic for a campaign game. So instead of, oh, I get done with each game, I have to hang on to five different cards, right? And then shuffle, and then have it. You have to have 10 of every card, so you have enough for all these campaigns. No, you just write these cards down and you shuffle them back in. I like the idea of this as well, because it progresses. We're going through stuff. So we have our injuries here. So we're going to have an Achilles tendon injury. Movement actions cost you 1 additional time for each square you decide to move. And we got 2 of them. We have 2 copies of the muscle laceration. The physical test costs you an additional time, so harder to move. We have head trauma. Consider your value of speed 1 point lower, so your days you can't move as fast, or act as much, I should say. Broken ribs. Consider your value of your health lowered by 1 point. So what's neat here is it's not giving you a point of damage. If you normally have 5 health, now you have 4 health. So you can only heal back up to 4, but it's not giving you direct damage. So if you ever get rid of this, you're not going to be back at 5 health. If you were at 4, you'd still be at 4 health. Of course, if you heal, you probably heal everything. We have 2 of those. We have 2 copies of Knock to the Knee. You do not use both active and passive movement skills. Ooh, so kind of shuts down your ability to do some of this stuff. I used to be an adventurer like you. We have 2 copies of Broken Finger. Your dexterity test costs you 1 additional time. We have 1 Cracked Lips. Your physical or psychic test costs you 1 additional time. And then we have 2 copies of the Spleen Injury. Each time you suffer at least 1 damage, you gain a bleeding token. So yeah, these are really fun because they make more realism in the game. So there's actually implications of your characters getting hurt throughout the campaign if you don't spend. And sometimes you're not just like, I can afford to be. You get done with a mission, you have to decide: do you go heal yourself, and that's the only thing you're doing this turn in between matches, or do you go buy equipment, or do you go hire a companion? Like, can you afford to go down one? Like, maybe if you're a fighter, having like 1 less for your psychic attacks isn't going to hurt you at all. Or if you're maybe a ranged character, not be able to move as much, isn't going to bother you too much. You could probably let it go for maybe a mission or 2 if you had to. But bleeding, you might have to take care of that. Otherwise, you're going to constantly be taking extra damage. And if you keep dying, you're just going to keep gaining more injuries, and then it's just going to be more and more of a pain. And the more injuries you get, then the more it costs you the next time to go back in and heal. And being down characters doesn't help you either. So yeah, that's a very, very fun, interesting mechanic. Plus, I like the idea of stuff like this and the reagents, because what you can do is you can add new stuff in expansions and like promo cards and stuff like this that add new ones that can be in and do different stuff, right? And it's really cool that you could just, same thing with all the equipment, you can add more of these into the game. It's just extra stuff to do. Reagents are a little bit trickier because if you add a new one, you don't have older cards that have the ability to buy those. If you add a new type, but you could just add them into that deck. Worst case is, I don't have the new equipment for it. You can always go ahead and sell it off if nothing else. But they can always make if they make a second game, like Nova Aetas 2, they could make a brand new deck of equipment or something like that, right? And you can always be like, oh, I want to mix both games together. You can always be like, I have all my reagents maybe get mixed together, but you could be like, I have item deck from the first one, item deck from the second one. So maybe you have 2 of each showing at a time, so you might have an option either way. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and look at all the equipment. This is going to take a little while. I think they're all in kind of in order of like weapons, armor, things like that. So yeah, so on the back, I think on the bottom, I think it's just showing how much you can sell it for if you want to sell the weapon. Let me see. Double check on that. I think I'm almost positive that's what that means. Yeah, so we do have like florins in here. Oh no, it's how much it costs to be gained or spent. No, that might not even be right there. That's just showing that. Here we go. Formulae cards. These equipment can be crafted through the artisan using reagents and distinguished by a white draped name. Equipment required and the forms required to craft. So you do need money to spend on those. All formulae cards can be freely referred to during the recipe by creating a formulae deck with all the cards at disposal. Regardless of restrictions of a card, heroes can craft it utilizing the artisan shop. Once the equipment refers to a card as crafted, it must be marked in the inventory section of the campaign. Are limited by the number of copies provided in the box. Therefore, if only one copy exists, it cannot be crafted again as long as it's in the campaign sheet inventory. An equipment crafted by a sold or discarded must be deleted from the inventory and can be crafted again later. So the one minor thing is each hero does have their starting equipment. These cards can only be equipped by the hero they belong to. So any of their starting stuff. Then it says advanced equipment, which we've looked at already. Here's portrait advanced class. They can only be equipped by the hero they belong to as well. But then anything else, rewards, any of the other stuff can be equipped anyway. What it is saying here, though, is Rebecca could stop at the shop. She could craft a knight's armor and a bardic spell, even though she's not going to use either of them. She could then, because then each person when they go to town can only go to one shop. And it's kind of an interesting mechanic. So you're not everyone going to town getting to do everything you want to do. So it does limit you on that, but that means your team have to work as a team. Yeah, so once game must be marked in the inventory during setup mission. Hero may equip equipment cards by choosing one of those listed in the section and respecting encumbrance limits. And then just some of the stuff we have listed on their categories, such as weapon, artifact, potion, encumbrance, type of encumbrance, occupy those available hero. Rules for effective provided by the equipment, attack, active, reaction effects. Bond indicates the equipment is automatically obtained by a hero accessing the advanced class it is bound to. And artwork. So if it has that little lock on it, like the level up one, you can only use it if it's equipped for that reason. So none of these guys will have that. Alright. So we have the whip. I'm not going to flip over and look at the backside of every single card in here because it'll take me forever to get through all these. So we're just going to look at the front. If you're watching this video and you'd like to know what all the backs are and how to craft all of them as well, let me know. I will do a follow-up video for this. Just leave it in the comments. And I can just quickly whip a fast video where I show each side of each card. Otherwise, we're just going to kind of go through this because there's a lot to look through. So we have a few different terminologies here. We have the whip is a one-handed weapon. Cost 1, goes 1 to 3, has harmless and hinder. So harmless says, regardless of success obtained, this attack does not inflict any damage. And hindered gives it a hindered token. And what do hindered tokens do? Hindereds say, model as this token must spend one additional move for each movement square until the end of its next activation. So what this is basically doing is you're snagging someone with it. You're not hurting them, but you're giving them a hinder token. So yeah, you might decide to have this. Maybe you have a sword in one hand, a whip in the other hand. Maybe you're a mage and you just want to prevent people from moving towards you quicker. Very interesting. Or getting away if that's the point of the mission. We have the sharp sword, which has tackle and bleed. So bleed, again, provides bleeding damage. A bleeding token takes 1 unblockable damage at the end of activation. And if a hero has one, they can't use focus points. But we're not worried about that for this. And then tackle says, this test attack is successful, the target must perform a force movement square 1 away from the attacker model if possible. If the attack performs a dash to place themselves in a square the target has left. So you're stabbing at them, but you're stabbing at them with such force that you're moving with them into the next spot. We have a long sword which takes 4 for 1 range. It can apply bleeding. That has an interesting guard. Oh, it's because it's a 2-handed longsword. That's part of it. But yeah, it's an interesting guard. There's another little like sword break on the top. Very interesting. We have Lethargic Dagger. It does 1 to 4 range. Crit. If the attack inflicts 3 damage, the target gains a distracted token. And distracted will say an enemy has this token gets -1 damage to all their physical and -1 test check for all their psychic attacks, and it's discard after performed. So yeah, the idea is kind of like they get stabbed, but it's, I'm trying to think of like why it's distracting. I think it's just because it's like lethargic, kind of being maybe like sleepy, maybe it has a little sleepy thing in it, like kind of just slows them down. I love that we're getting some really cool weapons in here, not just standard stuff. We have Raging Glove. When you perform a physical attack against an adjacent target, add 1 die to the attack. Fanged Shield, Boar's Head. If the physical attack of an enemy adjacent to you inflicts no damage to that enemy, gains a distracted token. If you block with this giant boar head, they're like, what just happened? Kind of interesting. We have the backpack for just an item. Place the first 2 Elementum cards, the metal symbol, gained during this mission under this card. At the end of the mission, note their contents of this card under this one in the campaign sheet, then discard them. So if you have this, you get to have 2 extra Elemental that you've collected if you survive to the end of the mission. And then we have the Ampule Belt, which is an item which says place approved Alchemia cards gained during this mission on this card. At the end of the mission, note the contents of this card under this one, and then discard them. So what's the point of this? Like, why would you want to put them under these versus just collecting them? Because there might be various things that let you, someone could spend them, someone could steal them, someone might have a card that says, hey, you have to lose some of your elements, or if a guy dies, something like that can happen. This just lets you keep them cards, right? So it's basically a way to guarantee that you're getting those 2 almost no matter what. So we have 1, 2, 3 Vigor Potions. Let's say pay 1 time, gain an Astral Token, then discard this item. We have 3 Healing Potions. Pay 1 time, choose a hero adjacent to you, including yourself. Roll 1 die for each damage possessed by the chosen hero. For each success obtained, the hero discards 1 damage and discard this item. We have 3 copies of Panacea. Pay 1 to discard negative static token, then discard this item. So potions make sense, they're 1-time items. Poisonous Fluid. Gain 1 time, or spend 1 time, place a poison token on one of your weapons or that on your adjacent hero adjacent to, then discard this item. We have 3 copies of the Flame Fluid. Pay 1 time, place a burn token on that weapon or a hero adjacent to, then discard this item. Sanguis Lucius. You can't use this item once per mission. Pay 5, one of your weapons gains the effect shown below until the end of the mission. Crit Distract. I just want to look at one of the quick things since we don't look at it. If you set someone, if you gain a burn, they gain burned token. It says model as this token suffers 1 unblockable at the end of its activation. So enemies suffer, they discard it. So basically that's the same as bleeding for them. It's more worse for heroes. And then for poisoned and I think stun, we may have seen stun, but we'll just read these 2 quick. Poison has a hero who has this token rolls 1 less die for each of their tests. An enemy has this token, has their mental and physical defense values decreased by 1. If you have a stun, must spend their 2 times to gain a turn to use their activation. So these are kind of some of the different things that are going to hit with those. So very interesting. These are oils. So these are kind of like you're applying these to your weapon. So we have Tarantula Ichor. Use this item once per mission. Pay 5. One of your weapons gains the effect below. It gains you a hinder. Not sure why it doesn't give you poison, but then we have Greek Fire, which pay 5 to apply burn. So that's neat. We have potions, are one-time use things. Oils, which let you basically increase when you gain extra things for your weapon, but it says one of your weapons gains the effect to the end of the mission. So you have the entire time, so every time it hits, it's going to gain burn or hinder. So that's a really cool thing, because you might, really want to do that. So then we have the Staff of Confusion, an artifact. Your psychic attack with a enemy target gain crits. The target gains a stunned token. You just whap them in the head. Protection Seal. You can use this item once per mission. If you are to suffer damage, you can roll 1 die. If you obtain a success, you do not suffer any damage. We get Arcane Book. You can equip up to 3 additional magic equipment of any school without taking up the slot of the encumbrance. If you do not have the skill to equip such spells, their cost is increased by 1. Spirit of the Pact. When you perform a defense test against a psychic attack, roll 1 additional die. Teleportation Cube. Pay 2, choose an available square within 3. Place your model in that square without causing reaction attacks. You can use the effect maximum once per activation. Per Aspera Ad Astra. You can use this item once per mission. Pay 1, change the result of one of your dice test to the choosing side you prefer. So this could be for a number. This could be for a symbol. You might want to change it so you activate a sun or a moon, but maybe you need a 6. But it even could be a combination of the both. Maybe you need a 4 or higher, so you might turn it to a 4, but you might turn it to a 5 just because you might be, the 5 has the symbol I need too. It's very interesting. Then we have some armor. We have Boar Hood. Resistance 1. The first time you use a movement action during your activation phase, that action costs you 1 less to a minimum of 1. The Hawk Headpiece. You have +1 dexterity from an attack against a target within 1 sight. When you perform a target within 1 range. The Bear Helmet just has a resistance of 1. Berserker Hide. Resistance 1. You cannot gain status tokens unless they are placed on your equipment. Alright, so that's all of our main equipment and armor. We're going to look at some spells in just a second. That's just the core stuff. We still have the stretch goals, so some more. But you're going to notice we didn't have a lot of weapons. There was only what? 1, 2, 3, 4 weapons. An item. It's kind of like a weapon. We had like 1 shield. You might be like, well, why didn't we get a ton? Don't you want to like go and craft and do a bunch of that? I think that's kind of the whole idea of each character starts with decent equipment. They didn't start every character. Like most games that have characters that start with equipment, like I'm thinking maybe something like sometimes Zombicide or even Massive Darkness. Like, everyone starts with the basic. Well, you have the simple sword, the simple armor, the basic, like, leather armor. All this stuff is, like, really weak. And there's just to find cool upgrades as you go along the game and get better and better stuff. This idea is they start the game off. Your guys aren't starting off at scratch if they've never done anything. They're already warriors. They've already done stuff. They just eventually further themselves. So you're starting off with decent equipment or things as well. But then some of it's like, you might have a character that doesn't have armor at all. Or you are a mage and you don't even have a physical weapon. You might want to purchase one. So that's why I don't think they gave you too many, because they didn't want you to also be sitting there like, oh, do I take... There's 20 different weapons, which one do I take, right? They kind of want you to focus more on playing the character, not playing which weapons do I buy. Especially because when you go to town, there's like 6 different areas you have to go to. And it would suck to be like, okay, well, the first place we have to go to is we have to go sell our reagents or do stuff to go buy new equipment, because otherwise we can't win because we have crappy equipment. No, you might want to go pick up a companion to help you out, or do this or do that thing. So I think it's kind of nice because it's going to give that balance of you don't feel like you have to go buy equipment or items. And then again, lots of these being artifacts and stuff like that, where you can have 3 different accessories or 3 different spells. It's going to kind of be like, oh, if I didn't have a helmet, I will purchase a helmet for this guy, give him the extra armor. Or this person only had 1 hand worth of weapons. Let's buy him a second one, then they have something else. But I don't need to go back to the shop every time looking through the shop looking for the next item to pick up for them. They have it, they're good. Let's keep going. So I think it's kind of a cool idea. Alright, then we have our spells. So we're going to start with Omnia's spell. So we're going to get 3 for each of the basic classes here. These are all for Rebecca. She has her 3 Omnias. She has Fireball. And Omnia just basically covers these 6 main spell groups in Black Rose Wars. So it's like Destruction and Illusion and stuff. So we're getting a couple of spells here. It's kind of like they're not as powerful as some of the other spell groups are, but they have more of a variety is the idea. So this is a psychic attack for 4 spit cost 4. Says crit spear area 4, inflict 2 damage to all models in the area and then burn them if you get a star. So this is also fun because we're going to have the spear. So this is going to go spear area X. So spear is going to go straight forward. So this is going to go forward 4 spaces. So everyone in them 4 spaces is going to take damage. I also like, it says model. So you're going to target one guy and it's going to hit everyone else behind him as well. Or in that line. So you're going to take out a lot of people. So you can hit your team as well. So be careful with that. She has Decay. She has a range of 2 to 6. Crit, target gains a point of static. Upkeep, pay 2. If you do not pay these, cost the target discards a poisoned token. So here's a neat thing, is you can keep forcing poison on them as long as you want to keep spending that. And then you have Sheepify. The target must be rank 1. Targets are 1 to 6. Crit, the target gains the sheep transformation token. As long as that target has such a token, they can use the statistics of the sheep transformation card. I just put that away too. Let me grab that out quick. I was like, I knew that was coming up. So what they'll get is this sheep transformation token. And then the model can go on the inside where the picture is. It's a double-sided token, so you can still see the sheep on the outside. And then they will have this. So if you target gains the sheep transformation token, so once the target has such token, they use the statistics generated by this card. So they become a sheep. So they all of a sudden have no actions, no dexterity there. They have 4 and 4, and they don't have any additional breaking the spell. And this model suffers at least 1 damage, discard the sheep token. So basically, they still have defense. They just can't attack or do anything else. And that's side A. Here's the other side. Transformation. When enemy gains a sheep token, they place an activation token A 6 sectors of the hologram starting ahead from the active one. When the minute hand reaches a sector at the A, before each event or activation, discard a sheep token of this card. So it's going to go on. So either A, they have to take damage, or B, it only lasts for so many turns. Harmless. The model does not activate nor perform actions. The value of the health is equal to that of the models holding the sheep token. The enemy defeated while holding the sheep token does not provide loot. So you could take them out and defeat them. But if you do, you don't gain any loot for it. But it makes them harmless. When this model suffers at least 1 damage, discard this token and this card. But you might deal enough damage to take them out completely. So if you only hit them for 1, they're going to change back. They're going to knock them out. But if they have 1 health, or if they have 3 health, and you just defeat them outright, then you don't get any rewards for it. Which is a great way to maybe shut someone down, at least for potentially 6 turns. You just ignore them. But you don't want to forget that they're behind you, and all of a sudden they come back and attack you. Cool. Alright, then we have Time Warp for Chronomancy. This is Rebecca's upgrade. Cost 3. It says, cast a spell, you must spend 1 time point. Pay for a crit, choose 2 activation tokens that are located in 2 adjacent sectors of the hologram and invert their position. She just swapped 2 guys around. So that could be cool. Put your enemies further ahead and you back 1. Or potentially even move your allies around a little bit. Very neat. She has Visions of Madness. Targets 1 to 3. You can spend 2 time points when you cast this spell. If you do, cast it a second time on a different target without spending time. Crit. The target gains a blinded status token. And then she gains Wither. 5, 0 to 6. To cast this spell, you must spend 1 time point. It has a cross area effect. So the cross, you select the center and it'll hit the 4 orthogonal sides. This says, inflict 2 damage on the target and on all enemy models in the area. Heroes in the area discard 1 health. So you can kind of use that to heal some of your guys. So if we look at Rebecca here really quick. So when she's the apprentice, she has access to the Omnia spells. You can equip schools of the School of Omnia. So it lets her use that. She does have stuff like this. Her spell's getting burned. You could potentially do that. Place lucky tokens on your spell. Each of your spell gains crit. When you use all effect, you can move. She has some interesting things like that. If we look at her Chronomancy, she gets her time points and Chronomancy. How does she earn time points? Various different ways. So one of her cards does it actually. But she can get it through using Sands of Time. I think that might be the only way on this to earn it. Yeah. Otherwise, it's one of her abilities on one of her cards lets her gain more. But here, each of your spell, if you gain at least 2 stars, you get some stuff there. Yeah, very cool. And then if we look at her last 3, she has Necromancy. She has, does range of 0 to 5. Crit, the target gains the advantage token. You can suffer 1 damage. If you do, the card also gains a lucky token and a shielded token. So now here you're actually targeting your teammates. You're taking damage to give them an advantage token, right? Just boom, hey, here I have an advantage token. But then you can also turn around and take a point of damage yourself to give them a lucky and shielded token. So Bite of the Night spell. 3 does 2 to 6. Cross area, inflict 2 damage on the target. For each star, inflict 1 damage on other enemies in the area. And the last one is her Bone Armor. Crit, gain a shielded token. If you obtain at least 1 moon, you can choose an enemy model within 2 spaces. The enemy suffers 1 unblockable damage. So cool. So that's kind of neat. Her Necromancy actually gives her ways to like help out her team, which is really fun. And then like for that, you play Necromancer. She gains her Necromancy spells. I don't know if there's anything bonus on here. Place the advantage token on one of her spells. That just helps make her spells better. Otherwise, yeah, she doesn't have too much on here that directly relies on boosting up her spells. But it's each time from a test for spell attaining numbers, and she can summon her Risen. And I think that's the other thing is, who are you trying to also boost up? Do you boost up your teammates, or do you create that Risen skeleton, and then turn around and keep boosting him up, right? You're already spending points to keep him around. Why not give him extra shielded tokens, give him extra tokens, just send him out, make him a massive army character. So that's pretty cool. Alright, let's hop into the stretch goal cards. So we're kind of going back into this. Now we're going to go into the bardic spells. So these are going to be for our bard character, who is... so this is Fatma's upgraded bard class. So she has fate points. So you may equip bardic spells. Each time a bardic spell, you may spend any number of time to decrease their test strength by the same number spent. So keep that in mind, that you can spend your fate points to make your tests a little bit easier. And just see if there's anything else on here that directly like boosts up her spells. Nothing really. So like, yeah, basically she's gonna have these and they might help her out. So what do we have on here? We have toss a coin, which is a Witcher reference, of course. Toss a coin to your Witcher. So this has range 1 to 5. It says crit, inflicted damage to the target enemy and add a reagent card from those showing that enemy card to the loot. Nice. So this is kind of neat because that might work really well with your alchemy character too. We have O Sol Mio. So this will get her crit. Place a fate token on this card. You may discard this token before performing a defense test with your fate dice instead of your value. Oh, so that's neat. So this is the only way she can actually get her own fate tokens. Unless you have some other thing that lets you swap tokens around. Because otherwise you normally only have to put it on other characters. And then she has Ancestral Song. I think that's supposed to say range is 1 to 5, not 105. But I'm not sure if that skill check is supposed to be a 2 or a 3. So a little bit of errors on there, but you know, things happen. Crit, the target hero gains a lucky token. The target hero can choose to increase or decrease their Prolium by 1. Ooh, that's neat. So you want to become more or less threatening. Neat. Awesome. Alright, we're going to look at some of our other spells here quick. So we have Transmutation. So this is for Ardrix. So he uses Transmutation spells. So lots of his stuff are going to deal with summoning his owl and doing stuff there. But he does have Mysticism. Each of your spells gains El Insecto, his owl familiar, gains 2 dashes. So when he casts his spells, he can make his owl move more. And his owl has special effects. So his Transmutation is a lightning spell. It does 2 to 5 range. Crit, cross area, inflicts 3 damage to the target. All other models in the area gain a stunned token. He can summon some vines. 2 to 5 has a cross area. All enemies gain a hinder token. And a serpent bite. It says feral, so he can actually use this after he transforms into something. Crit, the target gains a poisoned token. He can also use Animalism, which is his upgraded class of the Animalist, which turns into Owlbear. So when you're Owlbear, you can only use feral traits. That's where that other card does make sense, because he'd still be able to equip it, because that's his base spell. This does have stuff like each of your spells gains crit, place a lucky on your spells. I think it's the only one that actually generally does that. But what do we have for him? Spiritual Wrath. 1 to 5. A Sparrow does crit for each sun, inflict 1 damage. For each star, inflict 2. A Burning Soul. Target a ally. Crit, inflict 1 damage to all enemies adjacent to you. All models adjacent to you must perform a dash. Oh, neat. So you kind of like explode out and they'll take damage and have to get away from you. And then Feral Resistance. I'm not sure why you show a shell for Feral, because Feral, I think, would be like a beast, not a turtle. But 1 to 5, crit, target gains a blinded token. Interesting. And then we have Geomancy, which is his other upgrade. So if you want to upgrade him to Geomancy, it sounds like there's too much that affects his actual spells in here. But the thing with Geomancy is that he can cast stuff from his Geode tokens he places down. They're placed down at the beginning of the turn 3 spaces away from him. If end of the turn any are available, because he has stuff that lets him remove them, he puts them down 3 spaces away from him. He can then cast spells as if that was the shooting point. So basically he can have an extra range from wherever he is. So he has Magnetism. It says crit, choose a geode, then choose up to 3 enemies within 3 spaces of it. Choosing enemies must perform 2 force movements towards the chosen geode. Remove the chosen geode. So that's kind of neat. So basically, wherever the geode is, you can pull guys towards it. And then maybe if you're using his other spells, or someone else has good spells, you can maybe target that area and hit a bunch of guys. It's really neat. We have Caldra Draconis. Crit to the Geode, all enemies adjacent to it or on its own square suffer one unblockable damage and gain a burn token, then remove it. That's also neat. So as you do this, you're actually removing them then. And then now at the end of the turn, you have to replace them. And then we have Aetas. Crit is chosen a Geode. All heroes adjacent to it are in the same spot, getting a lucky token and can discard negative status token. Oh, cool. And a character buff as well. So that's definitely fun. So the stretch goal cards are basically so far just spells for the other characters, so they don't have them. Or, sorry, not didn't have them, but the new characters. I want to see if there was. So some equipment cards, usually spells can be put to the school or trick magic. A hero can equip spells with a school such as Necromancer or Chronology only if there's a rule on any of their skill sheets allowing you to do so. For example, as a Chronomancer, Rebecca can use both Chronomancy and Omnia, because that's her original one. And trick spells can be equipped by any heroes. So like in stretch goal, or not stretch goal, like promo stuff or mission cards, we're probably going to get, if we get any spells, it'll be trick, so that anyone can use them. But what this means is that only Agrax can equip the Geomancy or the Animalist spells. Only Factimas can use the Bardic spells, unless you end up getting some other item that lets you equip any spells. We did have in the base thing, let me see if I can find it again. So we did have this, it said. You can equip the 3 additional magic equipment of any school without taking up the encumbering slot. If you do not have the skill to equip such spells, their cost is increased by 1. So you can potentially pick up this arcane book, which doesn't actually cost too much. But it lets you equip up to 3 spells basically any other class. They just all cost 1 more to use. But that's a neat way to essentially let anyone in the game use magic spells. But also giving you access to reason to have these other spells in there. Because now imagine, like, this one I know isn't going to make as much sense because there's no Geode tokens, but the other ones would be really cool. Alright, then we have some special things. We have Weapon Alchemic. So an Alchemic Bond, this has a range of 1 to 4, applies crit to burn. So these are set items. So how set items work is if they have the set and you have the number of cards with that on there, they gain this additional bonus. So if I have all 3, or have 3 alchemic set items, the attack of this weapon gains, on crit, it gains critical 2 as well. And what does critical do? So critical says if this attack will take 3 damage and it puts an additional X damage to additional hero performed, it gains 1 per item, except for those performed by enemies. So yeah, this normally just apply burn, but if you have the 3 items, now you can actually make it even more powerful. It can do an additional 2 damage. And it already has to do at least 5 for that to trigger. So that means it would do, or 3 damage, so do 5 total. We can get the Clement. So it says harmless, won't do any damage. But crit for each success, the card discards 1 health. So this is a way for you to heal someone with a gun. And then Alchemist set. If you only have 2 of them, the attack of this weapon gains 1 eyeball. One of the dexterities. Yeah, it's kind of neat. So if you equip 2 of the different items, you can boost this up a little bit. And that's neat. Just even just the top part, right? Having a gun that someone could pick up and be able to heal people at a distance. So you could have anyone heal. It's always fun. And then we have the Purity Bracelet. Immunity, cursed, and immunity for disadvantage. If you have this, you can't take it. So one of them requires all 3, one requires 2. This one doesn't have any bonuses. You have Ghost Rifle, which are the weapons because of the Arcane set. So it says reload and sniper. So reload 2 just means when you use it, you'll put a reload 2 token on it. To use it again, you have to spend 2 time to reload it. Sniper lets you avoid scenic elements and opposing models when drawing a line of sight. So it's really helpful if you want to just get through stuff. And this attack gains 1 dexterity. The Fire and Ice. So of course a reference probably to Game of Thrones to an extent at least. Pay 1 time to place 1 hinder token on one of your weapons. Pay 2 to place 1 burn token on one of your weapons. So freezing them or burning them. And what it just required all 3 of them. And then this artifact, Deep Blue, only requires 2. Immunity for stunned. But then it also says, if you have 2 of them, when an enemy inflicts damage to you, they gain a marked token. And what does marked do again? We haven't seen that one yet. So an enemy, all attacks the target's enemy gain 1 extra die. So basically, if they target you, you can avoid being stunned, and you can do extra damage. We have the Crosshair, which are sacred weapons, sacred set. So this has reach, and then it says sacred set 2. The attack of this weapon gains +1 hand, and it gains the distract. And then reach is, regardless of its range values, attacking target model 1 height and level higher or lower, as long as the target is in line of sight of the attacking model. So yeah, so like it can, even though it's 1, it can attack 1 up, so it can hit a guy up or down. We have the Helm of Saint Mitchell, sacred set 3. After performing a defense test, gain a blessed token. So this one's completely useless unless you have all 3 of them. But it's still neat. Finger of Saint Viago. At the beginning of your activation, if you have at least 1 damage, gain a lucky token. And then the last one is the Fury of the Mace, weapon for wild. So crit gain, suffer 1 damage for each moon obtained. So it's probably maybe a little bit more powerful. But yeah, if you do bad, you hit bad, you're going to take your own damage. You smack yourself with it. But might be worth the risk of getting the wild set. So we have Oculus, which is the Helm. Pay 2 enemy in your line of sight gains a marked token, and wild set 2. Use the Oculus to spend 1 instead of 2, so it makes it cheaper. And you can, again, they get 1 extra dice for them every time. And then the last one is Pathfinder Compass. Pay 1 time, perform 2 dashes immediately once per activation. Wild set 3. You do not suffer reaction attacks when you perform the 2 dashes. So yeah, the set items are kind of really cool. Like we were just talking earlier about having, like, there's not a lot of equipment because you kind of get something. There's no reason to maybe go back and look for more. Again, some of it might also provoke you to want to go do the hunts to get some of the stuff from those missions because there's more weapons and stuff in the hunt missions, like side quests. This is kind of definitely another thing. It's gonna maybe provoke you to maybe want to go back to the shop once in a while. You might want to look for these other set items because then you can have a more powerful character. But it's also going to sort of focus your characters once you have to have 3 items taking up usually like 1 armor slot, either armor or helmet, 1 handed weapon, and 1 of your 3 artifact or item slots. It is going to take up some. You'll take up some of your space. It's going to kind of pull you away from doing some of the other stuff. But again, you don't have to use all 3 of them. They're all still mostly pretty decent on their own. Alright, then the next one we want to look at before we get the scenic element is our other mini cards are our astrology signs. So these are a set of mini cards you can opt to include. These are part of the stretch goals that came out. So what these let you do is add them at the beginning of the game, and it gives your character extra effects. I'm going to find the page for the exact wording on this. Just because that's easier to do. Okay, Zodiac cards. Here we go. If you wish, you include Zodiac cards in your campaign. If you decide to use these cards, each hero randomly draws a Zodiac card in the order decided by players during the prologue step. Instead of drawing them randomly, each player may assign one of their heroes corresponding to their own Zodiac sign. If 2 or more players have the same Zodiac sign, accurately decide who will take the card with their sign. The other player randomly draw theirs. It is not possible to assign 2 or more heroes the same card. Once a hero has been assigned a Zodiac card, it cannot be changed till the end of the current campaign. Zodiac cards provide additional skills to the hero, which functions exactly like all skills indicated on the hero's skill sheet. It can be active, passive, reaction. Is always considered to be equipped by the hero. So basically, it's giving you the option to give them an extra ability for the rest of the game. Okay, is a really fun idea. And it doesn't matter like if it's again, if you're in areas, you're not areas or whatever, or it's not going to trigger based on if you're in the hologram at that point or not. It's just you get this extra ability. So for Aries, because we have the goat, so there's going to be the 12 zodiac animals, or zodiac signs, I should just say, not necessarily animals. So pay 0 time, gain climb 1, and jump 2 until the end of activation. So very cool. And you might, again, randomly drawing these, I think is maybe a little bit more fun than looking at them and decide what's going to work best for your character. So, like, maybe the assassin or someone might, like, they can already learn climb 1 and jump. They don't really need this card. Because they can already get this ability eventually. But, imagine, like, would a mage need this? Not necessarily. Why? The archer, because they're going to be back farther. They probably don't need that too much. But that's what makes it interesting, because maybe if you get that, maybe you're going to play them a little bit differently, knowing you have these interesting new skills. We have Tauros, pay 0, discard a stun token, or spend 1 to place a stun token on one of your weapons. The Bull. Gemini, the Twins, reaction 1, when you have to perform a defense test against a physical attack, you roll 1 die. Getting a sun, the damage value becomes 0. So nice, dodging. So again, this could be great for just about anybody. You might decide, hey, my character's a little bit weaker, especially against physical attacks versus like the Knight, which can keep getting shielded stuff, the Ancient, right? So you might be like, hey, Rebecca needs this. You could play it that way if that's what works for you. Randomly getting it, might be interesting too. Cancer, pay 1, roll 1 dice. You obtain a star or a sun, discard 1 damage from one of your equipment cards. So this again would be better if your character has a bunch of equipment that can take damage. You get a character that doesn't, it's going to be sitting there doing nothing until you buy some equipment that gets one. But again, it might provoke your character. Normally they don't have an equipment card in your starting set. It might provoke you to go buying equipment next time you go to the shop. Just because of that, we might be like, hey, now I can actually use this card every turn. Leo, so plus 0 but an upgrade. If his attack targets an enemy against you, get 1 reroll. So not as good again for ranged characters, but good for melee characters, but might provoke you to play a little bit differently. Libra, reaction 2, when you suffer a maximum of 2 damage due to an enemy's attack, inflict on the enemy's same back number of damage unblockable. Sagittarius, plus 0 cost upgrade. If this enemy attack targets a non-adjacent enemy, you get a reroll a die. Pisces, pay 1 to discard a bleeding token or spend 1 to place a bleeding. So, some of these are the same, like extra reroll for range, reroll for melee, add 1 for bleeding, add 1 for stun, add 1 for burn. You get lots of the same ideas. Pay 1 to roll 1 die. If you obtain a star or a moon, sun or a moon, discard 1 damage from your hero sheet. It's a nice little heal ability. Again, which is better, healing possibly, or preventing the damage? Preventing the damage is obviously better because you're not taking the damage, but sometimes healing it might just be worth it too. What if you even just have a character, like we saw, it's like, hey, I can spend this necromancy spell to deal damage to myself to boost up my teammates. I can't prevent damage against that, but I can keep healing it every turn. That basically becomes nothing. It doesn't matter. We have Scorpio, pay 2 to choose a hero with 3 range, including you, that target discards a poisoned token. Notice this one doesn't also give you the chance to put it on something. Capricorn, pay 1 time, you gain 1 dash. This move does not cause reaction attacks. And finally, my star sign, which I didn't pick this to be last, it just happened to be there, is reaction 1. When you have to perform a defense attack against a psychic attack, roll 1 additional die. And again, this could be good, could be bad. You might go like, hey, I don't have to worry about, I'm a melee character, I'm getting right up close to a guy with, so he's not even getting a chance to use his psychic attacks because he can't hit me at range 1, right? Maybe his attacks are like 2 or 3 range. So he has to only attack me with his physical attacks. So this wouldn't have anything to do. But then maybe that might have you maybe like, hey, normally I wouldn't then go after the psychic characters. I would stay away for a while and let my ranged characters take them out. But this might generalize, get you to run in and take them out. I can afford to run in because I have an extra defense. Alright, so that's what we have for all of the miniature cards and the equipment stuff. Again, we'll look at the mission cards, the ones you get from the missions. We'll look at the mission stuff because they kind of somewhat tie into that. We can, so that way also looking at if I do this mission against this enemy, these are the things I'm getting as reward. The only other type of little miniature cards we didn't look at were achievements. Because again, they tie into the campaigns. I didn't want to go through them just because they might be minor spoilers for things that are going to appear in the story, so some people might not want to know those. I know at the beginning of the video I said we're looking at scenic elements and the tiles and terrain. I think we're going to save that for the next video. We'll just do that all at once because reading all these cards went a little bit longer than I thought. Alright, see you guys there. Bye.